Hey, welcome back, Levelin Up Nation. It is your success story strategist and host of Levelin Up podcast, Brigham.
I felt the need to make something happen with the music because I had done that. I had taken such an extreme leap of faith.
Tiny parachutes, I hope they're lucky like me and they laugh like you.
I just broke down into tears, and it's making me emotional right now talking about it.
Hey, welcome back, Levelin Up Nation. It is your success story strategist and host of Levelin Up podcast, Brigham Blackham. I'm so thankful. Today, we are going to have an amazing experience. I'm with my friend Cade Mower. He is an absolutely brilliant musician, and today we're talking about how we've been moved by music. Now, this is not just moved literally. This is a way that he's been able to capture the imagination and the excitement of how music and that passion has been able to take him to new places, not just physically, but emotionally, spiritually. I'm so stoked today to have him on this wonderful podcast episode. I think you're going to also find, because he's such an amazing father, amazing example of what's possible when you look and go super deep into your expertise and become excellent in everything you do. He is a wonderful example of all of those things. So excited to have you on the call. Welcome, Cade. How are you doing today?
Good, Brigham. Thank you for the introduction and kind words. Appreciate it.
Absolutely. Well, it's my pleasure to have you on today. One of the things I'm so excited to talk about is this idea of how your passions, and yours specifically music, have moved you to all these different places, created opportunity for you, because most of my audience are speakers and communicators, those that want to get out there and monetize their expertise. You've been able to monetize your expertise in music, but there's so many people that have various backgrounds. I would love to hear how you've taken your passion and how it's moved you and created opportunities. Let's start with your story.
Yeah. So I started playing music at a young age, 11 or 12, and I just wanted to play guitar riffs from bands that I liked, Led Zeppelin, Guns N' Roses, that kind of thing. And somewhere along the way, I decided I wanted to sing. And then at that point, I, realized I could make some money at it. When I turned 21, I started playing in bars around Salt Lake, and my uncle actually owns a bar on 48th South in Salt Lake called Club 48. That was really kind of my first gig. Started playing around, realized I could make some money. It fueled the fire for sure. And eventually ended up moving to Austin, Texas. That's where all my favorite music was coming out of. Stevie Ray Vaughan, Willie Nelson, Gary Clark Jr., and the whole Texas music scene was, music that inspired me. So I felt compelled to go there, and loved Austin. Spent about 7 years in Austin, cutting my teeth and playing much more than I was in Salt Lake. The music scene's much healthier out there in Austin, and I was playing, I don't know, a couple hundred shows a year probably, just hole in the wall bars and stuff. And at some point realized that was, perhaps the extent of what Austin had to offer, playing gigs at bars, and decided I wanted to immerse myself more in the business side of things. So came here to Nashville, been here for about a year and a half, and it's been definitely immersed myself in the business side. I've learned a lot about a whole different side of music, that being the business part of it. Still playing shows, but much more involved with some of the business side of this industry that I had no idea existed. Things like, and I'm still learning. It feels like I'm drinking through a fire hose even a year and a half, 2 years in.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's definitely moved me in the literal sense, all the way across the country. And obviously before it physically moved me, it moved me in more of a an emotional way, like you said. It's always been my means of connecting with people, and it's cathartic for me. It's so when life gets hard in the past, sometimes so hard that I don't have any other recourse. I don't know what else to do. I can write a song, and it always makes me feel better. It always helps me navigate through emotions and hard times. And you can't let that be the only time you write, or you'll never get better. So you got to find a way to write all the time and stay consistent. But initially, that's kind of, I guess, what drew me to music and what initially fueled the fire.
Beautiful. Well, Cade, you've had an amazing career so far in music. You feel like you've cut your teeth into the business side of this. You've got your next album coming out very soon. And I'll let you tell a little bit at the very end of the call how they can go find that, where they can go. But I know our listeners are just dying to hear some of your music. And I know you've got your guitar geared up.
Yeah.
So can you give us a sneak preview of one of the songs that you are so excited to share with the world? One that has moved you and changed, and give us like the 30-second to a minute background on how you came up with that song. I want to hear why it's so meaningful.
Yeah. So the one that fits so perfectly with everything that we've been talking about so far comes to mind. It's called White Whale, and it's actually a Moby Dick reference. If anybody out there is still required to read that for school, but the idea of kind of chasing that unattainable goal was what this song turned out to be. It actually started out as one of those things I was talking about before. It was cathartic. I needed it. I was broken. I had just uprooted everything I had built over a 7-year span in Austin. I had established myself as a gigging musician, and I was making money doing that. And I uprooted all that stuff that I had built out there. And then not only that, the harder part was maybe uprooting my wife's life, who was born and raised in Austin. I had kind of pulled both of our lives that we'd built there and packed it up and brought it here to Nashville. And I was having a really hard time with the pressure. I was sort of paralyzed by the pressure that I put on myself. I felt the need to make something happen with the music because I had done that. I had taken such an extreme leap of faith, and I was literally, I couldn't write. I had writer's block and was having a really hard time, and had a couple people tell me to stop writing for a minute, just relax. Like I was maybe 6 weeks in here, and they're like, just relax and put it down and take the pressure off yourself. And as soon as I did that, I wrote this song that it's called White Whale. And it was sort of one of those songs that I was like, man, I don't care if anybody hears this. It's a Moby Dick reference. It's obscure. I don't know if it's going to make sense to anybody else. It's actually, I released it as a single, and it got on an editorial playlist, and actually it's been one of the best streaming songs I've had so far. Here it is. I'll play a little part of it.
Let's hear it.
A blessing or a curse, I guess we'll see. This monkey on my back, I've been calling my dream that I'm trying to live, but it feels like it's living me. Like it's living me. When I get convinced I should let it go, it pulls me through another door, then it pushes me away till I'm all alone. I'm learning that this life will take me faster, but I don't think that's the way I want to go. I've been chasing I don't know what after. Running down that white whale rainbow when I've already got to go.
Awesome. That was beautiful. I'm going to give you a round of applause. So
Thank
good.
you.
Now, when you are creating a song, this is something that I think anyone can connect with. You're creating something that is either from raw emotion you felt moved upon, maybe the muses are calling. What do you do to capture those moments and make sure that it doesn't fleet? Because sometimes I know there's been stories that come to me and I'll write them down and then I'll come back like, wow, I'm so glad I wrote that down. But other times I've had an idea, didn't have something to write it down with. I was like, I'll remember it. And then it's gone. And you're like, oh, it could have been so good, but it just disappears. So what have you done to capture those moments?
Yeah.
And to make it mean something?
A couple of things. Number one, you mentioned the muse. I think it's real. I don't know what it is. I don't know how to explain it, but I think it is gifts from God, or some higher power that is given to you, and you have to be open and receptive to it. But when you do receive one of these gifts from the muse, number one, I write it down. I've got an iPhone in my notes, and I have hundreds and hundreds of just one-liners, song ideas. So I'll be driving or whatever. And a lot of times I'll wake up in the middle of the night and I'll write stuff down. Sometimes I'll even have a verse and a chorus that I wake up with in my head, and I'll make sure to write it down. So write it down, keep a notebook, keep a file on your phone, whatever it is. Just make sure when you have those thoughts, when you get handed a gift, an idea, write it down. That's number one. Number two is write every day. There was a great quote that I heard from somebody. It was a great poet, and he was being interviewed, and he said, the question that was asked by him was, do you only write when you're inspired, or do you kind of write every day? And he goes, his answer was, I only write when I'm inspired. Luckily, every day at 9 a.m., inspiration strikes. Meaning he just sit down and commit to writing every single day. And you can't wait around for lightning to strike, or you'll never get anywhere. So I think just sitting down, making a habit out of it, I think that kind of opens you up and makes you receptive. And it also helps you flesh out a lot of these ideas. Cause I might have 600 ideas in my phone. I'm not going to get to all of them, but I might get to 0 of them if I don't sit down every day and write. So, making it a habit.
That's a beautiful and simple thing that anybody can do. One of the ways that I've been able to do this as well, just playing off of that, is this idea of how jishing buru lanbito, a good, or the faintest of ink is better than the brightest memory. So literally write down those ideas. And I've been using a very simple filing system. I title what it is that I'm doing in my notes on my Google Drive, and then I write my story, and I do as best I can to have a all inclusive. This is the whole idea. Sometimes that's only a paragraph. Sometimes it's a line, like you said, but then I have a space, like a bucket, to come back to. If I'm like, oh, I have more ideas on that, I can go find that and then add to it. So however it is you guys organize your ideas, whether you're a songwriter, whether you're a speaker, whether you're a communicator that has amazing stories you want to share, the easier you capture those ideas and can review them and use them as inspiration for the next things, it kind of snowballs. One of the other things I've noticed is, because I like to collect quotes that have inspired me. Like, I hear literally hundreds of quotes all the time. Not all of them strike a chord with me, since if I can use the musical reference, but sometimes a quote or an idea strikes me so hard. I was like, I need to capture this. And I have a very specific place that I capture all of the quotes that have inspired me. to move or inspired me to take action. And because of that, I have one place that I put my quotes. And then sometimes those quotes I will share on social media, but a lot of times it's just for me, and that's okay. You know, one of the things I would love to hear as well, Cade, I know you've got diverse backgrounds in music. What is a song or a story that comes to mind that was almost a shocking like change of pace for you, something that you're like, wow, I didn't think that's where I was going to go in life, or it moved you in such a way that it expanded who you thought you were? Do you have an experience like that where music has moved you in such a way that it has given you new opportunities, changed the way that you interact with other people? What comes to mind?
So many times. Music has done that for me more than anything else in my life. It's opened up. I mean, like I said in that song, it opens up another. Just when I think I should let it go, you know, it's kind of a heartbreaking passion and business to be in, because you're so involved emotionally. It's such a passionate thing, you know, because it is cathartic and you use it to deal with emotions. But it also it has opened so many doors for me. And I think it's because it's how I connect with people, and it's how I met you. You know, I was brought out to the final percent through music, and I you know, I got a friend, Brian Guadagno, who introduced me to Greg, and we connected on a level. You know, one night just hanging out in his studio till 1, 2, 3 in the morning, whatever it was, and playing songs and telling stories. And it opened up that door, and that, you know, that really did change my life, because it just kind of happened at a time when I really needed it. Greg was and still is a big influence, and his willingness to help is humbling. And same with Brian. And, you know, there are a lot, just so many examples of that. You know, how music has changed my life and opened up new doors and changed my perspective. And, you know, I have a myriad of songs around that, that I could relate it to. There, you know, there's having a child, making the decision to have a child was, you know, I turned well, my wife turned 30, and when she turned 30, Brigham, she got baby hungry. She needed a baby. She's 30, she needs a baby, and she needs it now. I was hesitant. I was, you know, I didn't feel ready. I didn't feel like I could afford it. I didn't feel like I was ready yet. And I was sitting down one day, like I do, to write, and I kind of sat with myself and really asked myself, hey, what is stopping you? And I basically came to the conclusion that it was fear. I was just afraid. It was a change that I was afraid of. I knew I wanted to have kids, but I didn't feel ready, and I was afraid of, you know, I was afraid of that change and my whole world changing. And so I decided in that moment, as I sat down to write a song, that I was ready to face that fear. And that was that. And I sort of wrapped my head around it at that point. And I went from trying to put off having a baby to saying, okay, let's start trying. And that's obviously a huge perspective change. And just that change of, you know, that's maybe something that people don't talk about. That change from, many of us spend our lives trying not to have kids, you know, for a certain period of time, at least when we're in our promiscuous days, perhaps. But going from that to saying, okay, it's time to start trying. It is a perspective shift. It's a kind of a crazy one that if you haven't experienced it, it's life-changing, and you start to think about things and look at the world from a different point of view. And when you decide that you want to bring another life into the world, and you want to make sure it's with the right person and all that, the stuff that comes along with it. But I'll play. If it's
Let's
okay.
hear, I want to
it.
hear your song. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Share us. What's the title of the song?
It's called Lucky Like Me.
Lucky Like You. Okay. Take it away.
Want a piece of dirt with room to spare, trees in a river in a bed to share. Our two hearts fell into one. Let's put another set of eyes on the setting sun. And I can see it now, and it feels so right. You staring at a baby with them smiling eyes. Let's give our heart a tiny pair of shoes. I hope they're lucky like me and they laugh like you.
That was awesome. Thank you so much. Such great visuals in that song too. Like I can completely picture that house that you're going after, the little baby shoes. Like it's so cute.
Yeah. Thank you.
That seems like such a different shift from being a bachelor to saying, let's bring in some new responsibilities. And being a dad, myself and yourself, it's one of the coolest things that you possibly can have happen to you.
Oh,
there is a huge amount of responsibility, and it allows you to connect with people in a very different way. You said music helps you connect, and that's been something that has driven you. How has being a dad, not just thinking about it, having the kid, but being a dad changed your perspective and helped you be a better musician, a better person?
Man, I love that question. I got chills over my whole body just from you asking that question. Number one, the safety net's gone, right? I mean, it's like I woke up. I had a buddy, one of my good friends. His father passed away recently, and I knew his father and loved his father. And I remember writing down kind of some of my emotions about. I journal every day, and I was journaling about losing him, and I started to think about, man, how would I want my daughter to react in the face of death? How would I want her to deal with it? Mm. And that sentiment kind of summarizes the paradigm shift that you have when you become a father, at least for me. Everybody told me that it changes you when you have a kid, and before I had a kid, it seemed mystical and kind of it seemed obscure, but it's really not. It's like, okay, how would I want my child to react in the face of death? Well, whatever that is, whatever the answer to that question is, I have to be that. And I have to be that in every aspect of my life. How do I want my daughter to work? How do I want my daughter to love? Like all of these things, I have to now be that person, because I can say, hey, don't swear. But if you swear, what are your kids going to do? They're going to swear. So you have to be that person that you want them to be. So now it becomes more, it's a much more selfless way of living, because you're no longer living for you. You're everything that you do is for them, and an example to them. And that definitely fuels my music, because I want to be somebody that I don't want to be somebody that gave up on my dream. I'm still, in my eyes, still in the beginning stages of this music journey. And if I gave up now, I would be ashamed to my daughter. If she has a dream or an aspiration, whatever it is, I want her to go at it with everything that she has. Is she going to do that if she knows her dad quit and gave up on something that's that important to him? So yeah, it's definitely changed my music that way. And then just the writing the content, and because like you said, everything changes, your entire perspective on the world changes. So you have all these new insights that you didn't have before. And that's good songwriting material.
For sure. One of the things that pops out from what you said was you want to be that person you want them to be. Often we, in our youth, think, well, I'm going after my dreams, but we don't always go after them in the way that we necessarily want our kids to. But as soon as you have a child, you're like, I want to make sure that I'm doing things above board. I want to make sure that everything I do is transparent. If they saw my journal, if they saw every single bit of this, that they would be proud of the choices you made under the circumstances you had. Not every single one of us are going to have everything go right. I feel like most of the time we hit walls in our finances, in our personal life, in our community, in our vitality. And there has to be balance and a holistic approach. That's one of the reasons why I love the Final Percent, and I'm becoming a certified infinity coach there. Because if we only focus on one element, like say we only focus on our professional life, other elements will suffer. But if we always are improving in every element of our life, we have those benefits all the way through. And it's a moving target. It's always moving. So we look at how we're improving our health, how we're improving our relationships. All these different things tie in. Are we connecting with our community? Are we connecting with people? I'm so thankful for your inspiration as a father and how that's feeding into your music. And one of the things I would love to hear your take on is what it means when someone does something for you that changes everything. One story that comes to mind is the very first time we met. We were in Colorado at a totality event. Brian and Greg crack out this amazing gift of a guitar. And I want to hear how that guitar has not only changed your music and your mindset, but how receiving an amazing gift like that changes the value that you place on your dreams.
Yeah, man, it's right here. That's the one I've been playing. It was one of those things that happened at a really good time for me. I was going through a lot of change. I just had a baby, and I was struggling and financially and vocationally, trying to figure out what the next move was, trying to figure out what was right. And I actually reached out to Brian because I was feeling like I was having an existential crisis a little bit, and Brian's a good friend that I confide in him a lot. He's been a guy that's really helped me through a lot of different things in my life. He's seen me probably at my worst. And I called him, and he kind of said, man, I've got a guy that I need to introduce you to. I was sort of venting to him about this existential crisis I was having. And he brought Greg on the phone right there on that call when I talked to him and connected with Greg. And he goes, Brian said, I want to bring Cade out to the event next weekend or whenever it was. And so Brian flew me out there, and I met Greg, and that's when we kind of sat in there and his studio, and we really connected. Me and Greg really connected because Greg's a great musician, for those that don't know. I instantly felt very close and connected to Greg. I think he probably has that effect on a lot of different people, but he invited me back a month or two later to another event, and I showed up a little bit early, and I asked him, I said, hey man, do you have what can I do to help? How can I help set up? And he goes, you know what? I did just buy a new guitar. I wanted to see what your thoughts on it were. And so I went over and picked up this guitar and started strumming it a little bit. And he goes, I said, man, this is probably, I said, honestly, and I was being honest. I said, this might be the nicest guitar I've ever played. You know, it just felt like I equate it to like, it's like driving a BMW, like everything on it just felt tight. It sounded great. It felt good in my hands. I've always been a Martin guy. It was a Martin. So, and he goes, okay, cool. Good to know. And we went through the event, and then he basically at the end of the event said, hey, I've got a friend here from Nashville. I'd like, let's see if we can coax him up here to play a song. And so I played a song on his guitar, and then he goes, you better play another one because that's your guitar. And him and Brian basically went in and bought the guitar for me, and gave it to me. And I just broke down into tears, and it's making me emotional right now talking about it, just because I don't think him or Brian could have known how critical the timing was for me to give me that guitar. It was fuel to the fire for me. And it's like, if these guys, what went through my head is like, if these guys believe in me enough to invest that, because it's a very nice guitar. It's not a cheap guitar. If they believe in me enough to invest their own money and resources into me, why would I not continue to do that? And then there's almost like a responsibility created from my perspective. It's like, man, I gotta double down on this. It's number one, it's opened up the door to that relationship and that friendship and that's how I met Brian too. So me and Brian met at a gig in Texas, and at the Oasis. It was him and his wife. I was singing to them. That was an empty bar, and it brought me there to Greg, and it got me. They believed in me enough to invest in me to get me that guitar, and it was at a time when I was, I guess, questioning it, or not really questioning it, because I know I'll never not do music, but I guess I was doubting myself. And it's maybe I was discouraged at the time, because it is, like I said, it's a heartbreaking industry to be in as a songwriter, because there's nothing more vulnerable than writing a song. In my opinion, if you're doing it right, you should be vulnerable and you should be authentic. That's my mantra if you could summarize me as a musician, as an artist, as a songwriter, the proudest way that I could see from somebody else's perspective is somebody says, that guy's authentic, that guy's genuine, he means what he says. And in order to do that, for me, I've got to be very vulnerable, and to write these songs is a very vulnerable thing. And then to sing them and play them to people, it's like cutting open your chest and holding your bare heart open to a crowd, like that's exactly. And that's what it feels like, because you don't know how they're going to receive it, but it's so much emotion, and there's so much baggage, I guess, emotional baggage that comes along with these songs that I write. Most of them, some of them are fun and whatever. Yeah. But many of them are very personal to me. And we talk about this, the upcoming album. That's kind of how I picked these songs to go on the album. For the most part, they were songs that really meant something to me. So there's 12 songs on there. There's 2 covers and 10 originals. And for the most part, these songs are all very meaningful to me. Now, I've written hundreds of songs, and I picked out from a pool of hundreds of them, but I selected the ones that were that the emotional, scary to share type of songs, because that's what it's about for me. It's about connecting to people.
Beautiful. So to go even a little deeper on this, when you received that extremely generous gift, it shifted your perspective of what was possible. Because I know when we first talked, the idea of putting your album out was just an idea, and now it's a reality. How did that transference of belief from Brian and Greg help you do what you said you wanted to do?
I mean, it's definitely, it's hard, like public speaking or songwriting, but I feel like they're analogous. Like and the respect that like, for me at least, it's hard to feel not arrogant in the pursuit of creating an album, right? It's like, what makes you think that you deserve to be heard by your audience? It's like, it feels like an arrogant thing, but it's not. It's a gift that you're giving to the world. It's really a selfless act. And I think that was the shift that I got when Greg and Brian gave me the guitar, is it's not this arrogant thing like I need to be heard, or I'm important, and like that. You don't want to be perceived as an arrogant person, and it feels arrogant to go out there and do that. But the truth is, going back to like the Muse, we've been given a gift as public speakers or musicians, and it would be a crime not to share that gift. The way that Greg shared the gift and the way that Brian shared the gift with me, they shared that gift with me so I could continue to share my gift with other people. And it is worthy. It is of value to somebody somewhere. I know it is, because I've gotten the feedback. People have told me before, and I've seen it. I've seen people cry because of my songs, and I've seen my songs touch people, and it's just inspirational. Like I said, it's fuel the fire in that way. It's like it would be selfish for me not to share it with the world. And I think that's the shift that I really that maybe that was a turning point. Getting that guitar was a kind of a turning point for me. There were many things that went into that shift, but that guitar was a huge one, that says, hey, that it would be selfish now, especially after these people, Brian and Greg, invested in me. It would be selfish for me not to continue to share what they've invested in.
Cade, you share such a vulnerable experience here. There are times in my life where I've been very hesitant to take and accept a gift. I had one experience that was just brought back to me from your experience, where I had an elder, his last name was Cannon. He and I were on exchanges. It was lunchtime. We were about to sit down. He says, "Let me buy you lunch." And I thought back. I was like, no, I'm okay. I can pay for my own lunch. And he said, "No, let me buy you lunch." I said, no, it's fine. And I tried to refuse it. But then he opened this scripture to me in the Doctrine and Covenants. And it basically said, if someone tries to give you a gift and you don't accept it, who's benefited from that? Neither the giver nor the receiver. But when you give a gift and it's accepted with open hands and an open heart, both people are benefited. So because you didn't just accept the guitar, but you cherished it, you said thank you, you appreciated it, you were benefited, and everybody else that witnessed it was benefited. I remember that feeling, witnessing that shift from, oh my gosh, I played Greg's amazing guitar, to this is my guitar.
Yeah.
There was a palpable shift in your countenance and gratitude and appreciation. It was amazing to witness. And that's the type of community that I love to surround myself with. And that's why I think what you have to share is so important. Like you said, it's a selfishness thing. If we keep all of our stories and we don't share them, it's essentially like saying, well, I could give this gift of a guitar and change somebody's life or not. Think about if Brian and Greg didn't actually take that action that they felt impressed to do, that gift, and give it to you. That story would not have changed your life, and your music may not have reached some of the people that it could. But now that did happen and you accepted it with open arms and open hands, you've been able to take that experience and change your life. So have there been any songs that have increased their meaning or depth because of that experience?
Yeah. I think all of them, all of them have, but there have been the one that comes to mind is like Greg challenged me to when I was at the event, he challenged me on me claiming that I needed to work in my professional, the infinity model. And it's like, no, you need personal growth right now. And that was a huge perspective shift. And I think I came home from that event that was probably the biggest takeaway. And I think just a deeper appreciation for my wife and my family, and those songs. Many of the songs I've been writing recently are around that, inspired by them, and a deeper appreciation for them comes from that. So when I write these songs, even if they're goofy and fun or whatever, there is an appreciation. A deeper appreciation for them, and because it's easy to get wrapped up in the nuts and bolts of your professional life. Mm-hmm. As a songwriter, especially if you feel like you're not doing well, then it's like, okay, or doing enough. If you feel like you're falling short, it's easy to get plagued by that, and then let it bleed into your personal life. I think just, I don't know. All of them have deeper meaning. All of the songs have a deeper meaning in that respect. But I especially hold the ones written for my family closer. They're more meaningful now because I have a different perspective on that, and a deeper appreciation for that part of my life.
Wonderful. Well, Cade, this has been an amazing conversation. Thank you for being vulnerable, sharing your story. Absolutely a pleasure to hear you play. Where can people find your album? I know it's coming out very, very soon. Give us the details, and I'll make sure in the show notes that we can have a link to it so you guys can check
I'll
it out.
send you a link, a pre-save link, but it'll be out everywhere that you stream music, Spotify, Apple Music, whatever else you use, it's out there. I've got some of the songs are out already as singles, but the full album drops on Friday, January 31st. Follow me on Instagram, Facebook, all that stuff. And I'll post links and stuff there, and new songs and all that. But and I'll send you a couple of links that you can share with your audience as well.
Excellent. Well, Cade, thank you so much, man. I've been moved today to think about the gifts that I give, the stories that I give, and to really focus in on doing the work consistently. I thought that was great. You don't think about writer's block for for too long if every single day you're like, you know what, I'm just going to do it. And then inspiration strikes. So
Yep.
beautiful insight there. One of the things Greg taught me a while back, he's like, why is it that janitors don't get janitor block or doctors get doctor block? You're like, because it's their job.
Yep.
So
100%.
it is your job to be creative, and you take it seriously and you do it consistently. The muse will show up. The magic will show up.
100%.
So thank you so much for moving us. I hope you guys take some effort today to apply what you learned, and this inspired you to go check out his album. Always a pleasure, and God bless, guys.
Thanks, Brigham.
Like and subscribe. You're so welcome, Cade. Take care, guys. We'll see you.